Arrival is one of my favorite movies. It stands out as a brilliant science fiction film. When I saw it in 2016, what stood out to me the most was the quiet strokes of the film. The science fiction movies I was familiar with were action-focused. The First Contact films were often about invasion, like Independence Day and The Avengers. Arrival isn't one of those movies. It takes a thoughtful approach to First Contact, not starting with guns, but scientists. Among the team studying the aliens are Louise Banks, a linguist and our protagonist, and physicist Ian Donnelly. Their job is simple: discover why the aliens have come to Earth in 12 ships across the globe. Arrival is a film about many things: aliens, relationships, language, but most of all, it's about perception. Perception ties all these threads together. How we perceive situations, how our language influences those perceptions, and how that influences our behavior in turn. So today's episode of Tears and Rain is going to look at Arrival and what it tells us about the nature of perception. If you ask somebody what they remember about Arrival, odds are the first beat to come to mind will be the big twist. The movie's beginning implies that Louise is a divorced woman who lost her child sometime before the story began. But in the final act, we learn that the flashbacks that have plagued Louise throughout the film are flash forwards as Louise begins to see the future. Louise can do this because she learns the heptapod's language. She really learns it. It lacks a beginning, middle, and end, and thus influences their perception of time, non-linear instead of chronological. It's a brilliant twist to show how our perceptions lead us to expect a certain outcome. The audience assumed chronological order because that is what the language of film leads us to expect. That's what our brains expect for a story's beginning, middle, and end to proceed in that order. It's a natural part of life. You cook dinner, you eat dinner, you clean up. This twist has a multi-layered approach because Louise goes through the same motions we do. Louise doesn't know who the girl she's been seeing is. It's not until the end, when she's face-to-face with Costello, that the truth becomes clear. Now, it's unlikely that you'll discover the ability to remember your future memories by opening your mind and trying to adapt to a different perception. If you do figure it out, please let me know, because I would love to partake in that exercise. But I don't want to spend too much time talking about the big twist. That's been spoken of plenty in the years since Arrival's release. We're going to look at a few more specific examples, starting with Mahjong.
Colonel, those are all tile sets in Mahjong. God, are they using a game to converse with their heptapods?
The race to understand the heptapods and why they came to Earth was an effort made by 12 countries. Each country had an independent process of communicating with the visitors. When Louise discovers the Chinese scientists have been communicating via a game, she's understandably concerned. The use of the game creates a very binary understanding of language: win or lose. When this narrow lens focuses your perception, every action becomes a matter of conquest. Your next move must come out on top. Likewise, it means that everybody else's actions must be to topple you and achieve their own victory. Viewing the world as a game creates a brutal perspective where the world is out to get you and you stand alone. This is the opposite of the heptapod's open and fluid language. Their perspective as well is expanded. This small exchange between Louise and Weber about how the Chinese are communicating with their heptapods helps tie language and perception together. The film doesn't stop there because it shows how other factors influence perception, not just the language you speak. Captain Marks is a member of the team that enters the alien spaceship called the Shell with Louise and Ian. His perspective of the heptapods is different than Louise's. Where Louise learns from them, communicates with them, and connects with them, Marks is afraid. But there's more to Marks's fear than the primal fear of the unknown.
Honey, it's not gonna happen.
Marx's family is concerned about the top-secret mission. He can't reveal any details, so all they know is that he's making first contact with aliens of unknown intent. The heptapods didn't just separate Marx from his family, they were traumatizing them. We also catch another glimpse at what might influence him.
We are falling asleep at the wheel, people. You know what I'm talking about? I know you do. What if the smartest thing we could do right now would be to give them a show of force?
A soldier in a cot next to Marx listens to a talk show host who screams that the government should be giving a show of force. Marx eventually takes this to heart. Towards the end of the second act, he and a handful of his team detonate a bomb in the shell. It kills one of the heptapods and almost kills Luis and Ian as well. Luis and Marx had different perceptions of the heptapods. Luis lost herself in the beauty of their language and the joys of communication. Marx saw the pain his family was going through. He saw news reports of riots across the world in the wake of what the media called the alien crisis. When the heptapods delivered their crucial message that they were on Earth to deliver a weapon, Luis and Marx acted according to how they perceived the heptapods. Luis tried to understand, Marx tried to defend. Finally, I want to look at Ian, just briefly about a particular line.
You know what surprised me the most? It wasn't meeting them. Is meeting you.
It might be cheesy, but it fits into the theme because of how Ian's changed. When we first met him, he was hyper-focused on the science. He wanted to throw math problems at the heptapods before saying hello. He was polite to Luis, but over the course of the movie, we got to watch as his perception of her changed. None of these moments were loud. Few of them were even audible, often lingering camera shots that showed how he reacted to her actions. Moments of admiration and concern for her well-being that went a little deeper than colleagues. Ian's story demonstrates how perceptions naturally change over time. Luis doesn't try to attract Ian, nor does Ian want Luis early in the story, but they existed and matured and changed, and their perceptions did as well. This led them to each other and eventually Hannah. Arrival is a special story. I'm glad this video gave me an excuse to revisit it. The way perception weaves through every scene, from the camera to the beats of the scenes, crafts an exceptional experience. Its message of perception is powerful, especially now. The pandemic has changed how we interact with our lives and even our perceptions of time as days crawl by with agonizing slowness, yet a week evaporates with a blink. This film is a lesson in patience and understanding how we interact with the world and what might influence how others interact with us. Luis's journey shows that the best way to expand your mind is to listen, to engage, and communicate with others.
Now that's a proper introduction.
Hello everybody, thank you for watching this week's video on Arrival. I hope you enjoyed it. If you haven't seen the movie, I would highly recommend it. It's really one of my favorites. I believe it's available on Amazon, at least that's where I watched it. There's a new episode of Tears and Rain every other Thursday, so if you liked what you saw here, like, subscribe, and ring the bell so you'll be notified next time I go live, and leave a comment if you liked what you saw and want to see more.